Pilates for Neurological Conditions is a 16-hour continuing education course. And of all the different courses I teach, it's my favorite. Not only am I a Pilates teacher and a fitness professional who's been working in that business for around 15 years, I've also been a neurological patient for 20 years. So, in the course, we're going to cover sort of your biggies in the neurological disease world: multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, and stroke. And then we also cover some other ones, especially if we have people in the course that are interested in something specific. We do touch on peripheral nervous system diseases, but not quite as much as the central nervous system ones. So the course is, like I said, it's 16 hours. It happens over the course of 2 weekends, and it's designed for fitness professionals, which would include Pilates teachers, personal trainers. We've had yoga teachers, and then other fitness instructors, and then also physical therapists. And then we really welcome patients who are really curious about their disease state, and then what can be done with exercise, and then what can't be done with exercise, but what you can still do if, for instance, you have a foot issue, but you have been trying to fix the foot and you can't fix the foot. You might not be able to fix the foot, but there's always going to be some other things that you can do to make movement better.
I think this course is unique because it's not just exercise based. We don't just teach the exercises. Mariska designed the course to really explain the concepts. What is balance? What determines it? I want to highlight the uniqueness of your course of it's not just teaching exercises. We're going to teach you how to utilize them when they work and when they don't work as well.
Well, I think that when we go through our teacher training and if we're fitness teachers or physical therapists, like we spend a lot of time on anatomy. We spend a lot of time on the shoulder joint. We spend a lot of time on the hip joint. What we do not spend a lot of time on is the central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, the spinal nerves, the motor nerves, the sensory nerves, and how all of those things are going to play a role in how we move, how we adapt to our environment. Like a lot of the stuff that we do movement wise, especially as neurological patients, is reflexive. It's designed to protect the system. It's designed to reduce pain. And our bodies make interesting choices. And that's true for those of us with neurological disease and those of us without neurological disease. We always say, I think Meghann actually coined this term, like our course is for people with brains.
Everybody's a neuro client. We all have brains. Sometimes we use them more than others, but that's one of the reasons I love also getting to teach this course because it's always changing based off the group that's there, based off the questions we get. So, something I love about this course design is you can take it multiple times and still get a little different nugget each time. The repetition of it. And Mariska, you go into great detail of why the repetition via neuroplasticity is so important as well in the course.
In every single disease we're talking about, whether it's ALS or MS or stroke or Parkinson's disease or tremor or things like that, there is a point in the central nervous system where something goes wrong. It's either going to happen at the nerve, or it's going to happen at the synapse, the area that connects the nerves, or it's going to happen at a part of that nerve cell, or it might be like globally that it's happening at tons of nerves. It might be like very specific, like a stroke that happened at like a little chunk of nerves. It could be a progressive disease, or it could be something that happens because of like an injury, like a traumatic brain injury or a spinal cord injury. So the first thing I do in the class is I talk about, here's what the central nervous system is. And I do it like really quickly and really simply. And then here's what the peripheral nervous system is. And then we talk about, this is Parkinson's disease. This is what goes wrong. This is multiple sclerosis. This is what goes wrong. This is stroke. This is what goes wrong. And then once we know those things, then we start to really go into, here are the common symptoms that everyone faces. There are differences sometimes between the diseases, but a lot of the times the diseases are very, very similar. So although every neuro client is completely unique in their presentation and their symptoms, there's so much commonality in how you would work with someone. that I feel like if you understand the basics of working with neurological disease, you could get one of the kind of rarer symptoms that are out there or rarer syndromes that are out there, and you would understand what you could do and you wouldn't be scared to work with those clients. I think neuro clients are really fun to work with because, unlike a lot of orthopedic injuries, we're not likely going to make anything worse through anything it is that we're doing. That we're really trying to kind of cover the range of what issues people with neurological disease face. People are going to have problems with balance. They're going to have problems with walking. They're going to have weird gait compensations, and they might not understand why. They might need to have better compensations because what they came up with is causing them hip pain or knee pain. We talk about muscle tightness that you see in neurological disease that's really different from what you see in like the normal population. So we're talking about spasticity and rigidity. We also talk about bladder and bowel issues and even sexual function. So we really try to cover kind of a little bit of everything. When we talk about weakness, we do a lot of stuff with like grip, with foot weakness, with hip weakness, which can be a huge game changer in terms of somebody's balance. And then when we're really talking about balance, we're talking about how do we figure out what the problem is? Because balance is something that's so complicated that it doesn't just involve your neurological system, it also involves your musculoskeletal system, how much range of motion you have in a joint, and then why your body might be making the choices that it's making. So in the course, I will show some stuff on Pilates equipment because mainly that's the kind of fitness equipment that I have and that I use. But I'll also talk about how you can modify those same exercises to be used with gliders or TheraBands or just the mat. We talk about exercises with weights. We do a lot of stuff that's just standing exercises or seated exercises that have no weights. And then we also cover exercises for people who don't walk, which would include exercises for people in wheelchairs, people who use walkers, people who use any different type of mobility aid.
One of the great things about the course is how we are able to modify the exercises based off what the students have in the course or what the client may have at home. So I don't know about you, Mariska, but last time I taught the course, sometimes students will say, well, I don't have this, but I have that. And I feel like we offer that time to create adaptations based off the equipment you have or something you're thinking about getting.
Right. And you don't really need to have all this equipment to do really effective work. And I think that, we have fancy stuff. So sometimes we show off the fancy stuff. And we have had a lot of Pilates teachers take the course and they want to know how to do these exercises on a reformer or on the Cadillac or one of the different Pilates pieces of equipment. But one of my other workouts that I really like doing is just regular kind of strength training. So I also like to think about how do we do this with weights? How do we do it with body weight?
I think something common with a lot of teachers and practitioners, whether you're a PT, a physical therapist, a speech pathologist, a Pilates teacher, it's very easy to kind of get burnt out or, feel like you're not making an impact anymore. And one of the biggest reasons to take this course is it's not only going to open up your book of business to multiple neuro conditions, but it's really going to help you understand all your clients a little bit better from a neurological perspective. I find before I really specialize in neuro clients, kind of reinventing the wheel of trying to make a bridge exciting or footwork or, kind of being creative with choreography can get very draining. But every day, your neuro clients are going to come in with a little bit different presentation. They're going to have difference how their symptom is affecting them. So it really helps you on the fly kind of decide what's going to happen. So it keeps a little excitement and interest there. And I really feel the key to not having burnout and to like still enjoy and love what you do is to really truly understand the concepts. I believe it was Einstein who said it. I hope I don't screw this up. If you cannot explain it simply, you truly don't understand it. And that's one of the things I love about this course. And I remember when meeting Mariska and teaching the course for her, I loved the layout, the simplicity of it, But also, she doesn't dumb it down. We're not skipping over things because we can't handle it. We're digging deep into those concepts, but she explains it so well. And the course is designed that it's kind of easy to follow. You're excited to flip the page, not falling asleep.
We do get asked a lot, sort of where the genesis of the course came from. So in 2002, I was diagnosed with MS. I was in my 20s, and I was always an exercise person. And I was a trail runner at the time, which seems very strange to me because I can tell you I was never somebody who loved running, but I was into trail running at the time. And then I couldn't run anymore. And I needed to find, other exercises that worked for me. And so I ended up doing yoga and Pilates pretty much evenly. And then I was always hurting myself with yoga because I'm flexible in a couple of spots in my body that I was overusing, which that could be its whole own course. But I ended up getting really into Pilates because I was always injured, and I really fell in love with it. And I wasn't having like a ton of flare ups. Like I had pretty manageable MS, but I was still having more trouble balancing, more trouble walking. I wasn't really doing the things that were in the category of preventing disease progression. And they actually now estimate that about 50% of the progression of MS is preventable with lifestyle changes. And that's not like, 5%, that's like half. So fully half of the disability that people have in multiple sclerosis can be mitigated through lifestyle choices. And the main lifestyle choice in that category is exercise. And I know a lot of people with MS and they don't necessarily want to exercise. And we don't necessarily have the idea that you need to be doing an hour of exercise every day. Meghann can talk to this about like our, you know, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes here.
Yeah, I think something we focus on is the importance of movement, but looking at exercise from a different perspective. It's not a punishment to the body, it's helping your brain know what's available, what joints are readily available, and that what joints we can use. I like to think of the exercise and the workouts we do at the Neuro Studio, the WD-40 for the body. So we're kind of prepping the body with the movement so you can move throughout the day. I use the examples of our grandparents and great grandparents. We're not overweight. We're not necessarily unhealthy joint wise because they were moving throughout the day. They had more physical jobs. Nowadays, because we have to sit more in a virtual setting or for multiple reasons, so we don't like the idea of going to the gym for an hour and kicking your own butt and then sitting still for the rest of the day. That doesn't really keep the brain active and challenged. So it's really important to know what to do. Non-fatiguing exercises, exercise that are actually affecting the correct joint. I think our courses are a lot more about offering strategies, right, Mariska? Giving people strategies how to deal when things go left, when they should have gone right, or when they're going right. How can we take advantage of that without overdoing it? And
We talk
how to use the symptoms to manage it.
we talk a lot about sort of the compensations that people develop. So one of our things is first not judging the compensation, because one of the things I love to do in my workshop is take anybody, any normal, completely normally functioning person, and give them one of the neurological symptoms and then see how they manage it. Because you're going to see some really interesting things, and they're going to do what the actual neuroclients do, because it's just your brain trying to find a compensation. And then we talk a lot about neuroplasticity and how to get things to become more kind of set in the brain. But what we're really doing there is we're trying to get things into what's called procedural memory. So procedural memory happens when it's something like driving. Like you don't have to think about it. It's like if you had to think about driving and how you get into the car, you open the door, and then you have to sit down, and how you sit down, you step your right foot in, you step your left foot in.
Is
And
that
then
why I'm a bad driver?
it could be, but if you have stuff and it's all happening in working memory, which is where you have to think about stuff all the time, it makes it really hard. So when my walking gets bad because of MS stuff, I start to really overly think about it, overly analyze it, and then it actually gets worse. So we sort of do exercises that we break stuff down into its little bitty parts so that we have, if we're talking about walking, for instance, we have, okay, at some point you have to lift your heel and push into the ball of your foot. So we're going to do that over and over and over again. So that moves out of thinking about it and into that procedural memory, which is basically a neuroplasticity thing. And then we add on to it and we add on to it and we add on to it. So there is definitely a method behind what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. Now, not everyone walks. So we also talk about how to teach people who are in wheelchairs, because people who are in wheelchairs still need to move and they still experience pain and they still experience balance issues. I mean, they're all the things that people who walk experience, the people who don't walk also experience. And we want to make sure that we are covering everything in our workshops, because you might be working with somebody who has a spinal cord injury, and that's not going to be something that's we're going to fix, right? So we have to then look at how are we going to help that person have the best movement experience possible, live a life that's pain free, have good balance, have good mobility, have good ability to do all of the things that they want just in the situation that they have.
Even if you are not in a wheelchair, we all sit throughout the day. And when we sit and we're being still, it's almost like if you ever saw that Finding Nemo movie, Dory the fish that has a short memory. So it's almost like when you're not moving a joint, your brain has a short memory and might lose track of that area. So we want to say if you're sitting still for a long time, we want to give you exercises seated that can say to your brain, yo, you've got a hip joint. Cool. Now, when you stand up, hopefully your brain will utilize that if it goes into that procedural category of memory. So it's become more something you do without overthinking it. So don't discount the seated movements. Don't discount any part of a movement experience. And I think we really focus on that in all the Neuro Studio courses, but Mariska's really going to give you the foundations for all those little pieces. So then after that, you're going to go back to your studio, you're going to start, using all those techniques and get even more excited, because after that, there's so much more to learn, so much more to get excited about. And hopefully the Neuro Studio can be there to help.
I think one of the greatest compliments that we've gotten is from the people who've taken the course, and universally, like after a course is over, people are like, that was so interesting. And I have taken a lot of continuing education. And if you are in my boat and been teaching for a long time, you've probably also taken a lot of continuing education that was a snoozer and just saying, like, okay, but then what am I going to do with this? And I think that after my course, people go out and they have a ton of exercises. The course actually comes with a book that's 314 pages long. There's also a lot of concepts that I think are really applicable and very easy to apply, like right away.
The next Monday, you can, I've taken a lot of courses, and I like to say I have the attention span of a 12-year-old boy. And I remember the first time when Mariska and I started working together and I was going to be teaching her course, I had to take the course, sit through it. I have to say, and I'm being totally honest, it's the only course that I didn't have to look at my phone or tune out, because it is hard to keep my attention. So, that is a huge compliment to the course, but also the material. So, and the other thing I like is, you ever take a course and it seems so much bigger, and then you have to like go home, you're like, okay, now I have to figure out like how to use this. I've taken some applied neurology courses in my day, and I was like, real cool, but I'm not going to use this. I love that when you go home on Monday, boom, you're good to go. You've got all these tools, and you're not going to get everything because there's a lot in the course, but you feel like you have stuff right at jump. And then with the recordings, you can go back and watch it. So the things that didn't click the first time, when you're working with clients, you can then refer back, which I think is a really useful tool.
And I think what makes us really different, so Meghann and I in the Neuro Studio, is that we are like an ecosystem of education in the neuro world. So we're this course, we have other courses, we have labs where people can watch Meghann working with a neurological client in real time. Um, I can demo actually a lot of neurological concepts on myself because I am a neurological client and I do have a lot of the symptoms that I talk about. So being able to show people working with neuro, but on actual people with neuro, I think is another thing that kind of sets us apart. And I know Meghann
Dare
always
I
brings in,
say, dare I say we show our work? I've gone to shoulder rehab courses, knee rehab courses, and you're demoing the work on people that don't have bad shoulders or bad knees. So having Mariska there, she's had MS for 20 years. So she's kind of been through it all. You can see when it works and doesn't work. In our courses like the lab or the advanced course, we bring in actual neuro clients. We want you to see we are not afraid to show our work because it does work.
yeah, we like to say that our stuff is scientifically backed because it all is. Like everything we do, I have a new MS course coming out and it has a 50-page bibliography because I research. But then it's studio tested because it's one thing to know the intellectual end of it, and it's another thing to put it on a body and see if that works on a body, and then if it's replicable. Like, can you take that same exercise and have that work on someone else? And the vast majority of exercises are going to work on multiple people. And I think we have some of people's favorite things are some of our hacks. Like people see stuff, and I'm like, I can get that person to have better balance in 30 seconds. And people see it and then they think you're a witch, which I think is a compliment. I mean, they hardly ever burn witches anymore. So I know Meghann thinks she's reincarnated witch.
I think I was a witch in my past life.
Right.
An Egyptian I think I mummified people in a
A
past life.
mummify. I think that
It would
seems,
explain where I do have a master's in applied physiology, but I feel like some of the things I knew deeper down. So I must have done it in a past life.
but we don't want you to take it just from us because we might be a little bit partial. We have taught over 1,500 teachers around the world. Pre-COVID, we were traveling every month to different states in the US, provinces of Canada, countries in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia, and Australia.
Japan, Australia, Dubai, England, um,
Italy.
Italy, um, all the states in the US. So there's great practitioners all over the world. And I think it's really important to create that team. So, you can take our students' word for it. So if you're on the fence about thinking about taking the course, do you want to be less fatigued in your day? Do you want to love your job again? Do you want to just start each client with fresh eyes and not have hours of prep for each client? And most importantly, do you actually want to make change in your clients? Because that's what keeps them happy and coming back. And we know when our clients are happy, it makes our day a little smoother.
What COVID has taught us is that we don't have to be live in the studio to teach you this work. What we do love about doing it online is that you have a recording of everything afterwards. So if you do need to miss a day, you don't really miss a day because you can just go back and take it later. I've been teaching workshops on neuroscience and exercise for well over a decade, and this is hands down my favorite course to teach. So this is sort of my signature course. it has changed so much in the time that I've taught it. And it changes from one class to the next because there's always new information coming out. And we always like to add that new information in. If this does sound like something that would interest you, then you just want to kind of click below to learn more.